Well, good afternoon and welcome to the Idahoan Show. As you may recall, in the past I have sometimes test-fired 45 ACP loads that used a saboted 38 caliber 124 to 125 grain bullet. Well, today we're doing something similar, but with 44 magnum. So this is the same 124 to 125 grain cast lead bullet, but now in a 44 caliber Sabot, loaded in a 44 magnum cartridge with about 26 grains of Alliant 2400 powder behind it. Now, that's a fairly conservative powder charge for a bullet this light. Some loading manuals will allow a 26 grain powder charge of 2400 for like a 180 grain bullet. But it's also about the most powder that will fit in the case. So I figure I've got about 20-25 rounds of this stuff loaded up. Let's go ahead and try this both in a revolver and in a lever action carbine and see what it does. Given that the powder charge was, as I said, quite conservative for such a light bullet, I was concerned that these loads might be a little bit wimpy for 44 Magnum, but the recoil felt anything but wimpy. I mean, it might not have been quite as snappy as, say, a 180 grain bullet with the same powder charge, or, you know, a 300 grain bullet with a maximum powder charge in 44 Magnum. But they were definitely kicking harder than some of the light practice loads that I've used in 44 Magnum. So the recoil felt good. It felt like a potent load without being overly punishing. Anyway, let's go take a look at the target and see what we did. Okay, I set this target up at 25 yards and I fired 10 shots. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 holes in or near the target. That's, I don't know, about a 10-inch group, I'd say, at 25 yards. So that would be 40 minutes of angle, so not great accuracy. At the same time, this level of accuracy is not totally unusable, and at least all 10 shots are nice round holes. You know, we don't see any keyholing or other evidence of instability, and it looks like the holes are indeed 38 caliber, not 44 caliber, so it would appear that the Sabots are discarding correctly. Now let me set up the chronograph and we'll see if we can get a velocity reading. 1795. 1758. And 1778. So out of a revolver with a 6-inch barrel, it looks like we're averaging just a little shy of 1,800 feet per second. Now let's give the lever action rifle a try. Okay, so in the lever action, these didn't feed very reliably because the rim of the Sabot would tend to get hung up on the edge of the chamber. But they did function, so let's go see if they were accurate. Okay, I'm using the same target, still at 25 yards. So these rounds that I circled before were from the Revolver test, whereas the ones that aren't circled are from our current test of the lever action. And again, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 nice round holes. And this group's a little bit smaller. I'd say that's maybe 6 or 7 inches. So that would give us about a 28 MOA group, which is still not great accuracy. $24.11. $23.79. And $23.69. So it looks like we're averaging just a little less than 2,400 feet per second out of the rifle. Well, overall, I'd say the results of this test are kind of mediocre. I mean, the round was not a failure. It functioned in both the revolver and in the lever action. The accuracy left something to be desired, but it was arguably usable, at least on relatively large targets or at relatively close range, and the bullets were stabilizing correctly. In terms of velocity, it was probably the fastest .44 Magnum round that I've ever tested, but not by much. I'm thinking that a full-bore 180 grain projectile out of this lever carbine reaches about 2,250 feet per second, so the saboted round only offers us, 150 feet per second, or like less than a 10% advantage over the 180 grain load. Now, even that little bit of extra velocity, coupled with the fact that the bullet is smaller in diameter, should make this a flatter shooting round, which could provide an advantage for shooting at extended range if this was accurate enough to use at extended range, which it isn't. So, whereas the Saboted 45 ACP rounds clearly offer a unique capability in that caliber, I'm not really seeing that being the case for the 44 Magnum. I can't really think of any niche application where these Saboted rounds would offer a clear advantage over a standard 180 grain 44 Magnum round. Now, maybe if I iterate on this load design some more, experiment with changes to the Sabot design or perhaps the powder charge, I might be able to get better accuracy out of it, perhaps even more velocity, and maybe that would change our conclusion. But for now, I'd say this first test is not a failure, but it's not really such an exciting success either. Like I say, kind of a mediocre result. Anyway, until next time, thank you for watching The Idahoan Show.